So hello everyone. Welcome to today's water cooler chat where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's orchestrating, delegating, broadcasting, transcoding, or AI inference. We're here to ask questions and get answers. So we got a couple topics ahead of us around, open source projects, AI subnet, the LID, this startup program, and a template app, and these kinds of things. So I just want to quickly start it off with a quick announcement for a post I made with the Livepeer Innovators DAO. For those that haven't seen it yet, just in the Livepeer Innovators DAO channel, I posted a post basically with the idea of discontinuing the Livepeer Innovators DAO until further notice. For those that don't know, we put the Treasury proposal through, and it got defeated based on the metrics and the process of the LID. And what ended up happening was there was basically just probably a breakdown in the process of the Livepeer Innovators DAO, and in its ability to really hit a home run when it comes to retroactive funding. There's when you do these kinds of things, there's home runs, which you hit right off the bat. They're great successes. There's getting on hitting a good hit, and you land on first or second base, and hey, we can iterate and we can do something with this. But at this point, I think the LID kind of struck out in a way. I think that it didn't garner the support from the greater community behind its processes and expertise and these kinds of things. And so for that reason, I kind of just made a post basically saying, listen, the LID was an experiment. It was an open contribution of people, and there's probably just a better way of doing retroactive funding. And so therefore, it's probably best if the LID closes down and allows for a new entity to take on that role. If the LID kind of just lingers, like if it wants to continue doing the work of doing the retroactive funding and putting in the effort, it can. But just based on kind of the feeling I'm getting and the feedback I'm getting, it's not, there's just a lot of friction. And what's best is probably if we just close it down and let another entity take over, so that there's no question as to like, what's the LID doing? Is it still doing the retroactive funding? I would like to take it on, but the LID is already kind of doing this, and I don't want to step on their toes. And so the idea behind it is to just shut it down, let a new resource come in and either take resources that the LID created and make it better, or start from scratch. So anyway, that was kind of the idea behind the post. I just wanted to kind of bring it up. Does anyone have any questions or comments around the shutdown of the LID?
Is there not a possibility to retool the LID and come up with a new approach, or is it based on your time constraints? You can't do that, or you maybe some new leadership perhaps. I'm just curious if that was an option.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two ways to go about that. One would be to put new leadership in charge of the LID and to continue on with what it has. As for leadership, I don't have the time or energy to really do it. And to be honest, I don't think I really have the interest in doing it. I much prefer doing these water cooler chats or working on actually developing things. The LID, it brought out, it was just an uninteresting, not an uninteresting, it felt like a burden to me. Where it's like the least favorite thing I would like to do in crypto. And so I feel like if someone is interested in doing that governance, side of things and they have an interest in doing that and doing the greater good of it, I really highly encourage them to. So yeah, there's two ways of doing it. Is one is new leadership taking the current members and continuing on with it, or the second is actually just creating a new entity with the mission of doing retroactive funding, and you could easily ask people of the LID to come over that you think are qualified or interested, and you could, I mean, this new entity could just literally take the current applications and just resubmit it based on different criteria, right? So it doesn't have to be the LID that does it. It can just be somebody that wants to go through the process of improving it. So yeah, I mean, if new leadership wants to come in or a new entity wants to form, I think those are both very possible possibilities.
Anyone stepping up? I'm joking. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone that'd be willing to do that work or not, but be curious.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't even have to, like the LID was is a big cumbersome project with 18 members and like collective decision making. I really think actually the best retroactive funding like program would be maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 individuals that want to put in the time and effort and maybe want to do it on a much smaller scale or more specific scale, right? I think that would be. I mean, even if somebody wanted to call themselves an entity and just go through the list like Stream ETH and go, hey, listen, I know the LID didn't work, but like Stream ETH still deserves retroactive funding. I'm just gonna go put a proposal in on behalf of Stream ETH, for X amount, and let's see if we can get that one passed, and then we can take another project and get that one to pass, and so there's definitely ways that we can just continue on, or someone can take over the reins. But I think LID in itself is it's just not an efficient way to do what needs to be done. And it tried to follow the process that was set out in like the white paper or the light paper, and the original process was followed through from beginning to end, and it like wasn't a home run. And so I think it rather than trying to push against a wall, it's probably best just to reset with a better framework from the beginning, is kind of my thought process.
Yeah, from like Fanteasy perspective, right? We started with LID. That didn't go as expected. Then it was the failed proposal. So and there was a lot of guidance from a lot of people along the way, probably 3 or 4 people, yourself included. We ended up using your contract for payments. So if we had this kind of guidance being streamlined for like individual proposals, so that I don't have to jump through all of these hoops, that would be very helpful, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to step up and help projects submit retroactive funding on their own behalf, I mean that right there can be the process. Does that interest anyone to kind of take on the retroactive funding process and own it and do it themselves? Is anyone interested in doing that kind of work?
Hi everyone. I just wanted. Can you hear me okay, Titan?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi. I just for the sake of adding to it, it sounded overall from the community that the community would like to see more professional level. Essentially, not that the LID members weren't professionals, but it seemed like they wanted to have dedicated people that were, perhaps trained and everything in the DAO process of choosing applicants and then choosing, how much money should go towards each one. So to me, even though the LID team, the admin and the video experts we're essentially going to get some sort of LPT as payment through this. It sounds like it's more a role that would require some sort of monetary payment, whether it's USD or LPT, which would make it better with the members of everyone who was voting, basically. So I don't know. That's a totally different thing, isn't it? So I don't know if that's would you say, is that more what the overall thesis of people in the community would prefer? But in that case, then I don't know whether that's something that Livepeer has to organise as a professional, as hiring people within the Livepeer ecosystem. I don't know how that would work.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, go ahead. Aaron.
Yeah, so still new over at Livepeer. I haven't even reached a month yet, but we're definitely having like internal conversations about like what moving forward looks like. So I think that, like, especially because I'm going to be like, I'm overlooking grants, it's something of interest to me of like, you know, how do we value people who are contributing meaningfully to the protocol, to the ecosystem. So something I'm definitely thinking on, you know, so I appreciate people sharing their thoughts here and in the governance channel, because I'm trying to learn like what potential, this isn't, you know, down the line for me because I'm still new, but like what potential solutions there might be. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, and we appreciate your enthusiasm, and I think that, you know, the LID was set out. It was just about a year ago, 11 months ago, that this idea of retroactive funding could happen because the Treasury was formed, and you know, in my head I was like, okay, we will just have a community DAO. It will, you know, come up with projects and we will vote and everything will be great. And then what ended up happening was, hey, listen, like, retroactive funding and other projects are very scrutinized. They're very, we have highly skilled members that do due diligence. They, you know, there's like a big process of doing this. And so I was like, okay, this is not the tact we took. And then so that, yeah, it just ended up getting voted down. And I'm sure if we just lowered the amount to like 2,000 LPT, it might have passed just because of the low amount. But that wasn't what, you know, that's not what the DAO voted on, right? The DAO voted 50,000 LPT, which was more. I ended up just kind of picking arbitrarily 30,000 based on a subset of DAO members and their expertise. And, you know, it still got voted down. So the way I see it is, you know, the process was set. We followed it through to the end. It didn't get really. It didn't. You know, it basically struck out. Therefore, it's best if it just goes out of the way and something new takes its place and doesn't interfere with someone else's effort. Because what I don't want to have happen is the LID to now stagnate. And now no one wants to own this, you know, no one wants to take on this idea or project because, well, the LID kind of does it, but they're not really doing anything. And so it's this like limbo phase. So my idea was to just, hey, we gave it we swung, we got up to base, we swung, we striked out. Let's get off the pitch. Let's let someone else to take it up and do it, right? And so, yeah, so that for that reason, you know, I won't be doing the leadership of this anymore. I would much rather be building or doing other things in the community that are of interest to me, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the reasoning behind it. You know, it was definitely fun and a learning experience. But yeah, I that's kind of where it's at.
And just a last comment from me, I think that like infrastructurally, these things tend to be very hard to set up, right? So I think, you know, getting the idea out there is important. And then again, I have limited understanding, so sorry if this is like sound like stupid, but but you know, it's like I think getting the idea out there, you know, swinging and missing is actually a part of the process in sort of like DAOs or in decentralized kind of voting. So I think it's good that you did that. So and hopefully as we continue to evolve and grow, we can iterate from that process and see what might stick. So
yeah. Exactly. I mean, for those that know, like I've been in the community for about 3.5 years. Yeah, I've tried lots of different things. I mean, this water cooler was an experiment, right? This was just hey, let's try do a weekly call and see if anyone shows up, and we'll call it the water cooler chat, and and I think was probably a home run, right? Like it's been 3.5 years, and this water cooler it's busy, it has good conversations, and it somehow goes for 2 hours on a regular basis, right? So like the water cooler, in my opinion, was like a success, and so it's easy to continue with it. I've done the startup grant, which again, a success. Many orchestrators over the last 3 years have used it to get involved in the community, right? Home run. There's been a bunch of things that people that I've tried that have completely failed, and those are fine, right? I'm not, I don't mind. Failures are part of the process. I've tried many things. I mean, I tried to do Twitter Spaces and the Livepeer Academy, and I've tried to do all types of different things. And so yeah, LID was one of these things, and I would say that it's run its course, and that is fine. If somebody wants to do, like Mike, like you mentioned, if someone wants to take on the leadership of LID and continue with it, I mean, it is a DAO. It runs on Snapshot. Anyone like legitimately can just kind of keep going with it, but it won't be me for leadership. So yeah, that's kind of where it stands. With that being said, any last comments or questions about LID? Cool. There we go. Well, thank you so much for everyone that did kind of follow along with the journey, put in the time, their consideration, these kinds of things. I don't think this is the end of retroactive funding. I think this is just a step towards a better system, right? A better fundamental, framework for how we do it that I think the community can get behind and that will work, So yeah, there'll be a better process. We can draw upon other ecosystems. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes about. So let's continue on. We do have some topics. 420 Jesus. Your topic was around developing an open source project. Is this a project that you already have in mind, or are you looking for a project to build on Livepeer?
I already have something in mind. It will be a cam-to-cam implementation, so kind of like Google Meets, using the Livepeer SDK as a boilerplate. That was the general idea, but I would have liked to have some feedback from you guys, if this is worth investing time in or something else that you would
So
like
this
to
is
see.
our common topic, obviously. I was thinking maybe we can show you what kind of video interaction we have on our platform, and that might give us some ideas on what parts of this to outsource, if you don't mind. Pietro, can you share your screen?
To show the development.
Yeah. Our dev
Yeah,
playground.
just give me a moment.
Basically, we want to do more than just open sourcing our Livepeer implementation, right? So we want to build something that community would find useful, that would be usable, that you can play with. That's why, we chose to call it a template app. Maybe do a blog post as well, so something like that.
So I am sharing my screen right now. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
we
guys
can see it. Yep.
Okay, so this is our application right now. We can we have our profiles, feeds, messenger, and then we can create a live stream straight from the website. Also do cam to cams. And what we thought about doing was putting part of this of our source code as open source as a boilerplate for other developers that want a starting point regarding to the cam to cam. I don't have a camera on this PC right now, but this is our streaming interface. We can use OBS or the camera, and then we live stream from here.
Yeah, can you start a cam to cam?
No, I don't have a camera right now.
Okay. But it will be like stream within a stream, essentially.
Yeah, it's like a Google meeting. You can see yourself and you can see the other person at the same time.
But we also have chat. Now this chat is we're using PubNub integration, so you can do live chatting. Would you like also chat? Like, could we just take that experience and open source this, or maybe you see it differently? We can keep the chat, or we can remove the chat. Obviously, we'll remove branding from it, and I can have my designer do new designs for it and share it with you if you want in Figma, and we can go maybe from there. But anyone has feedback?
This is a home page.
So is this
There we
using
go to
Studio?
Yeah,
This
SDK.
So when you do cam to cam though, that's is that using like WebRTC?
Yeah, it's all using the SDK. You can
yeah.
Mhm.
We're using the NPM libraries. I don't remember exactly the name. I think is Livepeer React that we were using, and we were using an extension of the broadcast and of the player components available there from NPM. So our idea was to do a boilerplate implementation of them as a starting point, and putting that as open source for anyone that wants to learn or just wants a quick start at using Livepeer SDK in Node.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. Does anyone have any questions or comments on open sourcing this and the value it would bring to developers? I guess my question is, if it uses WebRTC, is it using the Livepeer network for transcoding, or is it, because that's, because if you do real time between two cameras, Livepeer network isn't between there, is it? I don't believe it is.
Right now we're using all the default configurations. We didn't configure our own node or anything like that. If that's the
No, it's
direction.
not. It's not client to client, right? Everything goes through Livepeer Studio.
Right.
Yes.
And they handle the background of what gets handed off to the network and
So it's not using in that case. No, it's not using WebRTC. We still need transcoding. Both of the live stream need to be transcoded, especially like when you're talking about cam to cam, because the smaller one is honestly it's a much lower bandwidth. And you can have actually the way we have it is for a private session you can have many people join, and for exclusive session it's one-on-one. So you can have it does look kind of like what we're doing right now. It's like Google Meet type of format.
yeah, and then you've got that one to many section where you can have many people watching, one person or two people, right?
Yeah, and they can all chat.
Right.
Yeah. I see Virus is typing something. Basically, we wanted something that we would be proud of and the community can really use. Yeah.
In my opinion,
Just
something
no.
something that like developers could use to to gain time in development. Like if more people are developing, the network will grow faster, I think. Maybe something along those lines.
Oh. Also, eventually, in a kind of 2-year horizon, we want to make it as a SaaS product. So I almost kind of thought about this as our beginning of building a SaaS product, right? Using that of the template app that we're gonna share. Now, would you? It sounds like you are not sure. I guess we'll just go and.
I mean, I think it looks. I think it looks good personally. I'd like to obviously see it actually working and like see what the delay and all that stuff's like. But and also in regard to whether or not I think or my opinion on whether or not to have chat box included, I think that's handy. I think there's plenty of times where people might want to share a link or something like that, and I would my vote would be to keep the chat box there or section.
I think the one thing just to say is that this is a group of node operators, not necessarily developers. So it's probably better to get a forum post out on Livepeer and hope that you can attract more developer conversation around it. I mean, I am a developer, and I think, like, you know, as Papa Bear is pointing out, I think it's good to have these extra like starter templates. I think Livepeer Studio published a sample app in React, and I think if you have another use case that's different than the one that they're publishing, I think that's also good to have, you know, a variety of use cases, because then it inspires folks to look at it and come up with their own ideas. So I think anything you publish in that regard is a good thing. I just don't know if I can say this is going to be a hot topic, you know, like somebody's going to jump on and you're going to see a lot of builders gravitating toward it. I don't know. But I definitely think the more example use cases and sample apps that we have, I think it gives developers a lot more to, you know, compare and contrast as they start to build out their own potential solutions.
Yeah, this is not end all be all for us. I mean, really for us, bringing demand side is the number one goal for to the Livepeer network. That's what's
And I
really.
think node operators appreciate that for sure more than a development platform, right? Like I think, you know, the node operators, especially ones that have voted for the proposal, are probably looking for that demand more than they are the sample app. But I think as part of your commitment, having that sample app out there that just gives the shell of some of the capabilities you're building is definitely good for public good.
Yeah, it's just that the public good. Part of the public good is outsourcing some of the code. So we want to make sure we do our best on all fronts. But yeah, the ultimate goal is, of course, demand side. Unfortunately, for demand side, everyone would have to wait for us to become successful before we can showcase that we're bringing demand to Livepeer, right?
I mean, I think even with your internal development and testing, you're going to be sending streams through the system, right? You know, as you're testing and your automation goes into play, there's still some demand that's going to come in, but it's not going to be, obviously, it's not 10xing, you know, the current network or anything along those lines, but every little bit helps.
Okay, well, we'll start working on that, and as soon as we have enough material for a blog post, maybe we'll go that route, and kind of target developers a little bit more with a blog post.
Yeah, and I think there's in the Livepeer Discord, there's a builders channel. I don't know, I remember the exact name of it, but there's definitely a developer channel, developer lounge, builder showcase. I think these are places where I think developers are frequenting, and you might be able to get some more commentary from them.
Good. Okay, thank you guys.
Various
Also,
so go ahead, in.
I was going to say, if you do end up applying to like the grant program, we give feedback to projects, whether you're accepted or not, and that can potentially give you some direction from the Livepeer team's end of things. So that's a potentially good option, just to get it out there and see what people think.
We did, by the way, we did get a grant.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry, I'm new, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that directly from the Treasury. It's the Interactive Video SPE.
Okay, congrats on getting it. Sorry, I'm like behind clearly.
Yeah, so we're already, we're good. Feel very fortunate, especially with everything else. LAD failing right now. So thank you for everyone who voted for it.
Right on. Very says, looks good. I don't have any experience on the broadcaster side, so can't really say if that'd be something that the broadcaster apps would like. Maybe someone from the Livepeer Studio team could give some feedback. Yeah, I mean, the key to your open sourcing of the cam to cam and the chat system is that it directly integrates into Livepeer Studio, right? And so while it would kind of directly / indirectly drive traffic to the network because it uses Studio, that's more of like a Studio kind of question as to whether they would see it as like a benefit, I guess. Because the node operator side, I mean, we don't see really much development of front end apps or have much resources for them, whereas Studio, they're trying to sell their product to developers and app builders, and so if they had an example of a cam to cam with the chat system ready to go, here's the official website and here's the code behind it, I think that would be really helpful if somebody were looking for that solution. And then if that were to nudge them to go to Studio over another, option, then, I think that would be the benefit, right? So rather than going to AWS, hey, look, I can use Livepeer Studio. It's got this this beautiful thing that I want. SDK is already set up. Example of it working. Cool. That would be really, it would bootstrap me a lot faster. And so therefore you'd get more people interested in building on Studio, which would be cool.
Yep. Sounds great. Thank you.
Is it one last question on that? Is it a lot of work to open source it? Like how much resources would it have to be to release that?
Question to you, Pietro.
It's not a lot of work per se. It's more of question of what would be better for the community. Like I think this is more of our angle. Like we have some logic regarding private, exclusive, some internal business logic that probably wouldn't be open source, but the cam to cam portion, like it wouldn't take that long of a development time to open source.
Yeah, I think the complication comes from having the vision of what that template, like the requirements, essentially translating it, right?
Exactly.
Once you have this requirements, it shouldn't take more than a week or 2 weeks, something like that. Where you get stuck is just thinking what that should be.
Exactly. We just want to be sure the direction before we leave. Right.
Yeah, and obviously we're balancing everything out with building out the platform very quickly right now, right? So we kind of have to carve out time for this and be very intentional with our time, because, like, for example, sometimes we have Pietro can work on this because the UI is catching up to the backend, right? And sometimes he doesn't even have time for this.
I would say that open sourcing it would definitely be in line with the funding you receive from the Treasury. I think that would be appropriate and kind of expected, that there would be this kind of reason for the grant was that you were getting open sourcing tools or widgets that would help other builders build quickly and effectively and pique their interest. So I would say I definitely in line with the funding you received. And if it's not too big of a burden, talk to Studio and get their feedback on it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say yes.
We will. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna drop. I appreciate the feedback.
Cool.
Me too.
Thank you so much for
very much.
Thank you so much for coming, guys. Appreciate it. Cool. Let's continue on. We might as well continue on with the template app. Rumbling Thunder, you had a topic around this. Oh, you're in the audience. I'm not sure if you're still here. I'll invite you up anyway. Because yeah, we just got off that topic, so we can continue on with that if you'd like. Kind of just talking about what your template app would be. Like how does it fit in line with what they're doing? Kind of explain to us what your feedback you're looking for.
So the template app that I proposed was based off of just the logistics of trying to figure out the innovators DAO grant. And like I've stated this before, I'm a former cryptographic network engineer, and I've worked enterprise level. So for me, I seen where there were no checks and balances and no real ways to vet projects. And based off of your statement during this specific water cooler, and saying that maybe the notion of paying someone to do diligence needed to be explored, this is where I created this app to do just that, to act as like a business analyst and also proposal analyst in order to prepare like a metrics that people not only can input during the process of putting forth a proposal, but also in the process of approving it. Just give some checks and balances that are standardized that everybody can, look to as, the standard.
So is this a running app that you're trying to build awareness for, or is this you're looking to get funding for?
Something I'm looking to get funding for to build.
Okay. Yeah, well, the Livepeer Innovators DAO, I mean, it's not really doing, it went forward with a proposal, it didn't make it, so the LID is probably not going to continue. So as for funding routes on the Livepeer network, you probably just have to go with the community grants node, which I think they fund up to $15,000 grants. I mean, I think that's the only grant funding we have right now. So, this is actually on your topic,
Yeah,
on updates on the startup program. So the startup program. Why don't you take us away with kind of what you're working on, and maybe you can answer and help out Rumbling Thunder.
Yeah. So the startup program is basically different startups who are supporting and driving demand for the AI subnet. And just the updates I had on that was that we're going to be posting an announcement article probably later this week or early next week, talking about each startup, what they're doing, and dropping some other announcements about the program. So look forward to that. In terms of Rumbling Thunder, what you're asking, I think right now, at least from the ecosystem perspective, there is the grant program that you can apply to. And like Titan said, that's up to 15,000. We have the micro grants, and then we have the 15,000 grant, which is for video disruptors. And I can send the link in chat for you, and you can check that out and see if you feel like you fit within what the grants are looking to do. But it never hurts. It never hurts to try, is what I always say. So yeah, that's all I really had to say on my end. With the startup program, to be seen if we have that to be a continuous program or not. So unsure on that one yet.
Yeah, originally, when I made this or designed this app, it was after the innovators grant had already closed. And like I said, I built it as what I seen was a needed solution. to how you guys are approaching your grant systems. Because like you said, you have more than one, right? So this is something that I could see being a recurring problem, especially as you guys grow and the public gets more aware of your brand.
So the grants generally, to my understanding right now, again, like I said, I'm newer to Livepeer, but my understanding is the grants are one time usually, to help get different members in the community started. So I don't think it's reoccurring, but you could always do a proposal, I think, right, Titan, if people did want to potentially support something reoccurring. Is that correct?
You're asking me or Titan? You're asking Titan, right?
Oh, sorry, I'm asking Titan. Yeah, is that it can, because you said anyone can submit a proposal, right?
Oh yeah, to the Livepeer Treasury. Sorry, I didn't realize it was a question for me. But yeah, yeah,
You're
anyone can
good.
submit to the Livepeer Treasury. Yeah, if that's your question.
So, yeah, that is the question. So basically, a potential pathway is like look at the grants program I posted in the chat and see if it's something that you feel like you fit within. And then potentially, if you do think it's fulfilling a need for Livepeer, you could always put a proposal up for some sort of like longer term funding.
Well, no, yeah, that's been the point of contention since I started here on Livepeer. I came here solely just for the streaming services. Um, and I was told then that you guys had grant programs. I didn't even know about any of this when I joined the studio. And since then, only thing I've really been asking is, uh, to be pointed in the right direction. And it's very difficult for some reason.
So do you feel like I pointed you in the right direction, or still you don't feel that way?
I mean, well, according to what you're saying, the treasury would be the correct route. So my question is like, what are the logistics behind applying to a treasury grant? And I asked this a couple weeks ago too. That's really what I'm needing to know.
Maybe
Like,
Titan,
what
you
is
can take that. I'm not as familiar.
and specifically, that's where the iProtocols app will come into play to put together templates and guidelines so that anyone coming into the network new could have these answers readily available and
Yeah.
and know what the process looks like.
Yeah, Rumbling Thunder. There's ways you can apply for grants. I'd follow those avenues. And then if you want to build out the app, I mean, feel free. So yeah, I know you've been working on this quite a bit, and you've put a lot of thought into it. But I just encourage you to, just to put forward, a proposal, or come up with an app that people can try out, and just kind of go from there and gather feedback.
Okay, well, that's where I'm just trying to get clarity because that's what I thought I did was put a proposal. So I'm just trying
Where
to
is your
figure out.
proposal?
Well, I put it in the link that's in the chat right now. It's a link to the
Oh,
general.
It's just a PDF.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, when I mean proposal, I mean a proposal to like the Livepeer Treasury, right? Or like to the Livepeer forum or something like that. So yeah, what I would recommend you do is take this proposal, put it into the Livepeer forum, and then put forward a proposal to the Livepeer Treasury and request the funding, right?
Okay. So, but do you guys understand, like, I understand what you are explaining to me, but this is where the app would have it outlined. So I would be able to go to the app and the app would tell me the processes and procedures on how to do this properly so that you guys recognize it. Because I'm not a developer. So the vernacular that you use is a little bit unfamiliar to me sometimes. And I can see that happening, with other people who are creators, especially. So everything that I do within my brand and my company is for creators and entrepreneurs to strengthen their brand and to protect their intellectual property. And I can see how Livepeer has the tools to be able to facilitate that. It's just right now, from my perspective, there is a mismatch in the language and me trying to communicate what I see and need versus you communicating to me on how to do it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, we just don't have the template for you to get the funding you need. So you'd have to just kind of come up with it yourself at this point. So yeah, unfortunately, it's the best I could do for you.
All right, copy that.
And I think there's a link there in the chat too, to where the grant program lives, and there's a form in there too to submit. I'm not sure where that, who goes and who's reviewing that. The form is to just get your idea out there in the community. The Discord is not really a great place for it because it's just going to get swallowed by all the other comments. Whereas the forum's getting more visibility for these types of things because that's where that activity happens. And
Peter, are you talking about the grant program link, or
Yeah.
are you talking about the treasury?
grant-
Oh, okay,
the grant program link there, not the
gotcha. Yeah.
treasury.
Okay, yeah. So who's reviewed? Just to answer your question. So I am the one leading grants now, and the people there's a team of people from the Livepeer team who are reviewing it. So there's I think 5 of us who review each application that comes in. So Rumbling Thunder, that might be a good place just to start, and kind of put your idea down there. Again, sorry, I'm new, so if you had posted historically, I'm not familiar with it. So that might be a good place for you to start, and then you can get some feedback from the Livepeer team to see if it's at least internally, if it's something that there's people feel like there's a need for. So I think that, like Speedy Bird saying, it would be a good place to start.
That's the forum that you're speaking of, right?
Yeah, so that's the Livepeer grant program, the Notion site I posted. I can tag you in it here in a second.
Livepeer, no. Okay, I see it. Livepeer, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what I was initially referring to when I was talking about the grant program, because you haven't applied to that, correct, or have you?
No, the only thing that I've applied to is the Innovators Grant.
Okay, yeah.
Innovator
So maybe, can someone tell me what the Innovator Grant is? Sorry, I'm not familiar.
That was the Livepeer. That was for retroactive funding. So that was
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
that was just an application form to give us your details for retroactive funding. But I mean, yeah, it's just all fallen through, so it doesn't really exist anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that, Titan. Yeah, so I would definitely say just, I know it might suck to have to apply to something, but the grant program is currently live. And, so that, we have monthly funds to give out there. So not promising that you'll necessarily get a grant, but it is a good place to start to, get your name out there and start interacting with folks in the Livepeer ecosystem.
What's the maximum grant funding right now? Because I mean, I just read through Rumbling Thunder's proposal, and he's looking for $500,000.
Yeah, so the max grant is so there's micro grants, which is shorter timeline stuff, which is 1 month, and then there's the disruptor grant and the open grant, which are both 15K. So it's not anywhere near that amount, but is a place to potentially get started.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, let's continue on. Mike, you had a topic around AI subnet analytic data. Let's jump into AI. So take us away. What's your topic?
Well, I'm just curious. I see a lot of conversation in Discord about, what orchestrators need in terms of metrics and I think everyone's talking about what models should I load, and what price should I be setting, and I think folks are just curious that some of the tools and things that exist today for transcoding aren't there for the AI subnet. And I know recently Rick and the AI SPE team had published their Prometheus metrics that orchestrators can start using to scrape their data. I just didn't know if this was a forum in which folks could bring their wants here to talk about it live, so that perhaps as we start to look forward and building different tools and technologies to help support the analytics of the AISPE, maybe that might give me and some of the other teams that are looking to build these tools some insight, like what are the kinds of things that folks want to see at a network level, maybe even broader than an orchestrator. Like it may be good to have what pipelines and jobs my orchestrator has been receiving, but what are some of the things that folks would be looking forward to see in the protocol at large, maybe in Explorer, maybe in other places beyond Prometheus? Like what are the types of things and the insights and analytics that folks are looking for? So just starting that conversation, trying to get the feedback first, and really seeing what the pain points are, and where teams like the Livepeer Cloud SPE could help build around those.
I guess a question is, okay, let's say that we have, I think we have that tool that shows us, how much of what model is on the network, right? Do we want?
You're talking about the AI generator that the Livepeer Cloud team built?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, the question is, like, do we, like, I don't know if this is even relevant to your question, but I guess I had a question for you, which was, like, do we want, when someone joins the AI network, would we rather have GPUs join the models that are not real, that have very little usage, like zero capacity, and bringing them up to at least 1 so that they're available in the network? Or are we just gonna go, well, no, this one's in demand so much, we should all pile onto that one, and there'll be 10 of this model and 0 of the next model? Like, what kind of distribution do we want as a network?
That's a good question. I mean, if you look at the current AI generator today, I think that's what's happening, where folks don't really know where the demand is coming from, so that it's hard for them to make those choices. So I put the tool up there just as a way to say, hey, what actually is running today on the network? But there may be a need for more models, or maybe the models that people want aren't there. But I think that tool was really quick and dirty. I don't think it solved the problem per se, but it did give some insight. And I know folks like Frank and others were talking about it recently, Vyers, even as he started to bring on his new AI orchestrator. There were a bunch of questions around, like, how do we know? Like, how many jobs are coming through the network? So I just didn't know if there were more details that folks could like talk about what they would hope to see.
Yeah, like, for instance, so we were using ByteDance text to image model for a bit. I think that's what Tsunami, how do you ever say that? Tsunami was using, and then they switched to RealViz Lightning. And then what ended up happening was, I built Let's Generate.ai, and it was using the ByteDance model. And now if you go use the ByteDance, no one's there, so it just fails. So I just changed my front end to, like, list the RealViz Lightning model so that, users by default would actually get something back. And I was like, like, should we be spreading it out so that lots of models are available, or should we focusing down so that we have very few models, but they're more abundant, and so you can scale upon them, and then I guess that kind of wraps around to your question around, like, Mike, your question, your topic is around, like, subnet analytic data. So it was more like, what do we? Was your question more around how do we handle the data, like how should we structure it, or what data should we structure, like what data should we get?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above, really. But what should we be collecting? Like, what is going to give orchestrators the insight that they need to make the decisions on their infrastructure? But at the same time, like, what about gateway operators and what about DApp builders? Like, what are the kinds of things that they might want to see? So I just wanted to get anyone's input on all as to, what, you see what AI generators doing today. Is that sufficient, or are there more things that could be done? I know the AI SPE team is looking to put like a leaderboard up on the the Livepeer Explorer, and what would that look like, and is that of interest to the community at large? Just trying to start the conversation so folks can perhaps start talking about some of the pain points that they have and things that they would wish, and then maybe we could gear some of these solutions around some of these pain points.
Yeah, I mean, for building a little small app that I did, I mean, one nice thing has been around the image to video section. It hasn't kept changing the model, so I haven't had to mess around with that much. And so, but yeah, like as a gateway, I would love to know easily, what models it will accept. And even if it didn't, and if it didn't accept them, like how could it, like can people, have cold loaded models that, hey, listen, like there's no warm loaded models, but why don't we load the model and we'll get you back what you ask for, right? Because that's what you submitted, even though it will take forever, but I'm willing to wait to give you what you asked for.
Yeah, so you're saying is one idea would be to have the ability to query the gateway for all available models on the network and their respective pipelines. I think that's what you're saying, similar to what AI generators doing today.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know because I've talked to two apps that want to use Livepeer that were literally going to build on us because of retroactive funding. And now they probably won't, but those guys, their biggest concern was scale. So they wanted to know that what they built on would scale with them. And they were only using one model. So their goal was to have a model that was hyper realistic. So they wanted something that looked very human like. So they didn't really want abstract. They didn't want like cartoony. They were looking for, I think it's like the RealViz model. I think that's the RealViz, like kind of, I don't know the difference between the models, but they were looking for high quality, realistic images at scale, right? Those were those two apps. And so, yeah, like they didn't even have a preference on the model as much as they just cared that the image that came back was good and that it was scalable. So how could you build trust? How could you entrust to them that we could provide those two things, right? What kind of metrics would they want to see? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's more like, loading up the network. I think we're still in an early phase of the subnet that, if you're looking at large scale deployments of the usage of the network, it's probably a little early for that as we still continue to build it out. I mean, I don't want to speak for the AI SPE or anything, but I think it's still rather premature for a large scale deployment of the AI subnet. Maybe not. I mean, I think, with the pool support coming online soon, I think that might change a lot of the supply of the models and GPUs that we have today. So I think that might be something that's going to change. But again, it's not limited. My thoughts aren't, or the question I have isn't limited to DApp builders or gateway operators. It's orchestrators too, right? Like I still struggle to know what model I have, two GPUs, which ones should I run? Like, like you said, I don't want to pile all 10 of, if we got, a whole bunch of people running RealViz Lightning, but, somebody wants to run an upscaler, or somebody now wants to run the audio to text, like, is that a good idea? And as a node operator, how do I know that it's a good idea to run one or the other? Or, you know what I mean? Like, and at the same time is, um, how am I scoring as an orchestrator? Am I going to get selected? I've been in the subnet for quite a while, and I don't think I've won an AI ticket yet. I think there's quite a few folks that have won multiple tickets. So what's the reason, or what are some of the things that are causing me not to get selected, or not to get to win a ticket? Like, is there what kind of data? I mean, I think we went through this kind of stuff with transcoding in the early days too, right?
I mean, have we even solved the transcoding question? But
no, I don't. That's fine. I don't. If there's no feedback here, I mean, I can get into the Discord and start asking more, trying to maybe spur some more conversation with other folks that are, maybe not here today. But it's just going through my mind. That's all.
So, like from a
Yeah,
node
no,
operator, so basically what I would like to see, just as a like pure basics, is how many jobs have I processed, when have I processed them, which region do they come from, and also like how good was my GPU at processing them. Like, does it matter on the prompt, on the requested pixel resolution, on what does like my performance depend on, and where is like the limit of my GPU? And that would help me to like optimize for future jobs.
And is that something that you would expect to come out of your node itself, or is that something you would go to Livepeer Explorer, like the Vercel app? Like, where would you want it? Where would you hope to look to find that data?
I mean, similar to the transcoding data, so basically just like a metric flag, and then I can set up a Grafana or something like that, and just see like what's the performance score.
If
Okay.
I could chime in, can I chime in real quick, you guys? This is very surreal. The first water cooler chat that I ever participated in, you guys were discussing the same pain points, in which I proposed to develop an app with a scoring system, which I was encouraged to apply to the Innovators DAO. And once I applied, I got kicked off the server the very next day. But if you guys really read through what I've proposed for the greater app, it is the solution to everything that you guys are saying on a network level, not just orchestrators, not just node, not just people who participate in the studio. It's thinking of how to compute the data so that it is prioritized, not only just for you as the orchestrators, but also for the viewing audience who will come on to the Livepeer Studio interface, which is the greater app. Because as it sits right now, I streamed to my studio channel yesterday, and I had my colleague asking, well, how do I see it? Like, there's no interface to even view the content that is housed on Livepeer. And, per the conversations that I've been having with you guys over the last few months, I've been questioning this. And the answer that I've been getting is that, your guys' priority is just transcoding tickets. Where me on the other side, in the studio side, and even in the Web 2 space, I understand the value of all analytics. So this is where this app is solving a lot of different issues, as well as taking advantage of things that already exist.
okay, but what you said though, like, of course, like, we want to see greater analytics into the network, but I just, like, you haven't come forward with like a concrete, like an example of how you would collect this data, right?
Well, I mean, that's where I understand the word of innovation, and especially what I do is concept development. So to ask me just to have a proven model, like from start to finish, like that requires time and funding. But this is where I thought I was coming into an ecosystem of developers that could help me facilitate that need. And since then, like I said, I haven't fielded not one technical question, not one DM. But the white paper that I put onto your guys' network has like 30 views, and I haven't shared it outside the network.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes sense. Like, we want greater introspection into the data. It's just how, right? Like,
Oh, the name of the app is called Greater. The name of the app is called Greater because it is understanding that once piece of content is uploaded to any platform, it's encoded.
yes.
So that's what you guys are doing. You're transcoding, right? So the issue is that after you guys transcode, that's it. Like it's just a sitting piece of content that doesn't have any instructions. It doesn't really have any value because even when I, as the end user, send that link to somebody else, there's no brand recognition on why they would even click on it. And then if they do click on it, the display is like super static.
Yeah, but the
So,
studio isn't for end users, right? Studio is for developers who want to build their own app.
that's what I'm attempting to do, but that's what I'm saying. But in part of building the app, I have to test out what you guys have going on, right? So I'm uploading assets to see how your system works. And this is the perspective that I've been speaking from, like the user perspective of the studio part, but it's like there's been a disconnect. I'm using Studio a very specific way, and it's almost like I don't have a right to. But this is open source, right? So in the spirit of
Studio is not
integration,
open source. Studio is I believe Studio is made by
right?
Livepeer
But
Inc.
they have APIs and things that I could attach to a application that I build onto Livepeer. Is the point that I was making. And that's what I had planned to do. And that's where, I would need the expertise of the live peer community in order to do that. But, that's where like logistically, all I've been asking is how do I accomplish that?
I mean, none of us are Livepeer Studio experts, right? None of us here work for Livepeer Studio, which is a totally different company. Like it's very confusing because Livepeer Inc. is a company in the U.S. In New York, and Livepeer Studio is their product, right? And then the Livepeer network is like an open, decentralized software on the blockchain that uses blockchain, right? And those are like two very separate things. And so it's very confusing because we're running Livepeer network,
No,
but
I
Livepeer
understand.
Inc. is running like its own company with its own services, right? So we don't really have much
I
insight
understand
into
that.
Livepeer Inc.
But the two are tied together though, right? It's not like they're completely separate entities, right?
Uh,
So, that's what I've been presenting is my experience of how separate they are and really providing what I think of as solutions to, make it more cohesive. Because this is my expert opinion. Like you guys are underutilizing your network, especially if you're trying to expand and drive traffic. I did a 4-hour live the other day. Like all my friends do 4 or 5 hour lives all day, every day.
and what platform did you use?
What do you mean? Which platform did I use?
Well, okay, you did a 4-hour live video, right? So what
You-
platform did you do it on?
I did it on you. I did it on YouTube.
Right. Okay. So if Livepeer were to adopt if YouTube were to adopt Livepeer, right, then that would be someone who would use the Livepeer network.
Right, but I streamed it onto Livepeer at the same time simultaneously. I was broadcasting. That's my point. And that is something that I know is of interest to the streaming community specifically because on
When
social
you say
media,
broadcast onto Livepeer, what do you mean by that?
what I mean is that the stream that I did on YouTube, I streamed it onto my studio channel onto Livepeer.
But the studio channel is not a platform for people to watch streams.
I understand that. That's what I'm trying to describe to you guys, the other use for it, which people are interested in, and that is protecting their live stream because there's a lot of shenanigans going on on the internet when it comes to free speech. So there's a lot of people who are interested in protecting their live streams.
Yes.
Can I comment, Titan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so so there's this app. Oh my gosh, it's is it called like what's it called, something, Titan? I'm forgetting the name right now. It's a live streaming platform that a Livepeer uses. That they use Livepeer on the back end. Something.
What was it called?
Okay, I'm looking. I think it's on the website. One second. Okay, it's called Unlonely. I don't know why I thought Unholy. Sorry. Rumbling Thunder. This might be interesting for you to look at. I'll post it in the chat. So I think I think what you're saying is, like, I understand where you're getting at. I think that with Livepeer as a protocol, the intention of Livepeer is about servicing applications that like need like video transcoding, and now we're adding in that need like AI as well. So so I'm not sure if you heard of the graph. I like to compare Livepeer and the graph, not because they're the same, but because they live in the same space in Web3, which is they are not for everyday people, right? So they're not. So Livepeer is not intending to like capture the average person. It's intending to capture developers who are building apps for the everyday person. So Unholy is a good example of this, where Unholy is Livepeer servicing Unholy on the back end, and the idea of Unlonely, excuse me, I keep saying Unholy. Unlonely is that your live stream is protected from potential censorship. So I think that like for what you're saying, it doesn't necessarily apply to what Livepeer, if I'm understanding it correctly, it doesn't apply directly to what Livepeer's intention is. Similar with the graph, right? The graph is not for everyday people. It's like a service. I don't know. I even don't know the graph is fully, but it's doing things that like are for developers on the back end for like data and APIs and things like that. Does that help?
No, I understand what you're saying. It's just like I'm just explaining to you guys like that's how I'm using it, and I know other people who would be interested in using it that way too. And honestly, if that interests the community, fine. If it doesn't, that's cool too. Like I'm still using it in the way that's a capacity that serves my needs. So like there's no lose, like I'm just presenting to the community as a part of it, what I see from my perspective and my vantage point.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so definitely apply that grant, and we can take it from there. I think would be a good first step.
I wanna kind of finish up on the topic of analytic data, and varies speaking about having the local node data. How far away are we from having local node data come out of an AI node? Like what would it take, do you think?
There's some data there now. They've just released a new version, I think, Friday or Thursday last week, that gives you like, um, you know, the models, the jobs you received. There's some sort of latency score that was included into the Prometheus endpoints for AI specifically, but I felt like it was still like, just rudimentary. It wasn't quite, you know, the kinds of details that we get to see from transcoding, right? And I just that's why I heard a lot of folks talking about it. I know Vyers had some thread going where people were talking about which models to load, etc. But I don't think that the Prometheus metrics that were released answer all of those questions. So I just was hoping to get some more feedback as to what's missing, and then what might it take to actually get some of that stuff added into it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm sure Rick has some ideas around that too. So that's it'll be good to kind of get some data out of the nodes, and then as well as like kind of if we can do, I mean, it took us forever to get introspection data from the broadcaster side, so I'm not sure how soon we would get that data as well. But
Well,
yeah.
I've been working on Prometheus dashboards or Grafana dashboards for the Livepeer cloud gateways that we're running out there. So we released a public dashboard that shows some of the, startup program data and some of the AI generator test data that gets published. So there's some data coming out right now about models and whatnot, and I think Papa Bear shared that in the Discord. So if you guys are curious, you can take a look at it there. But obviously, there's still a ton of work to do to making that data useful for orchestrators and gateway operators.
Yeah, I just put a link into the. It's just a request count by pipeline and model, which is really the only one that we can share because the other one has some like tokens and stuff like that for the startup group or grant or sorry startup projects that we can't share just because it has personal information there. But I mean this gives you at least an idea of which models are being requested. It does look like mostly from the stage that the subnet's in right now that it's mostly just test streams that are coming out that Livepeer is sending out because they seem to be pretty equal across the all the different models. So I think we're kind of talking also a little bit about the future, about like knowing which models to load that are going to get and I think where it's going to be really handy is if we can figure out a way that somehow, I don't know if it will be dynamically or somehow we can be notified that, hey, we're short on GPUs that are running this model, because right now there's plenty of capacity for the workloads that we're currently getting.
Cool. All right. Well, is that for
Let me just
just
answer.
the gateway?
Navigari. That's
Is that for your guys'
that
gateway?
is Livepeer. Yes, but we are currently the entrance point for most work that's going through the network right now, including the test streams.
Well, then you are our introspection.
Yeah, I mean, right
Suppose you
now
could
we
look at it
kind
that
of
way.
are.
You
I mean,
are
if you want to
you
use,
are the introspection, baby. I remember, Mike, you were like, "Oh, I want to be the number 2 broadcaster on the network." Bro, you made it. You're there.
we did it. We did it.
You did it.
Right.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude. That's awesome. I'm very proud of you guys. That's freaking awesome. Cool. Yeah. I mean, even just that introspection right there is like more than I could want. That's amazing. It's good that we have these kind of statistics. And if you guys keep it up, I mean, at this point, I might as well just point, the let's generate AI endpoint to you guys because, I don't know. Otherwise,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Titan. And again, there's this is what I was saying earlier. I mean, obviously, you can run your own gateway, and it's good for you to do that. But if we're already the subnet's, de facto gateway, I want as many gateways as you guys know. Like the more gateways, the better. The more that I think the health of the network grows as long as we have demand coming in. But for folks that don't want to be burdened with running their own, that's why we've donated our gateway for folks to publicly consume. So if you don't want to run your gateway, or if you just want to use it for testing, you can definitely point your UI to our gateway. And that would definitely help, especially if you start to get some traction from a user perspective, because I think it would be good for us to, as we see the growth coming in from dApp developers or just users of the system, it'd be good to have a place where folks can go look at that data and start to make their, decisions on node operations, et cetera, on what to do going forward. So glad to help it. If you want to get set up, let me know.
Cool. All right. Any other topics before we sign off? I think we've gone through everybody's. Yeah. Any other topics we want to cover? Well, I'm excited to see that the Livepeer Cloud SPE has taken on the initiative of the public gateway. That's really cool. Keep it up with the statistics. I'll keep my eye on it. Yeah, I mean, Rick is doing a lot of work with the AI stuff, improving it, and so is a bunch of other people. Right now, I've just got a 3090 that I've got on the network, and hopefully that's contributing as much as I can. That being said, I think I think we'll end it there. So thank you everyone for coming to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we make Livepeer the open and decentralized video infrastructure in the world. So we'll see you all next week. Cheers.
See you.
Bye, everyone.